Today, we're making a little Thanksgiving sign out of 1x6 cedar. So if you guys been watching for a while, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon. It really helps us out with the whole algorithm thing, and we're putting out a bunch of content with some big projects coming up that you don't want to miss. So to carve this sign today, guys, we're using our November 2023 template of the month, which is this goofy looking turkey, and we're also using our fatty font sets. We're using 2" for the outset letters and 1" for the inset letters. I'll leave a link in the description below for everything we're using today. A big thank you to Rod and Angie Hall. They came down and visited us about a month ago, and they brought us a truckload of this beautiful 1x6 cedar. So we're gonna give it a shot, carve something out of it today.
When you're laying out a sign with two lines, you want to try to get even space on the top and bottom. Now, because the top line is going to be outset, I actually had to drop that top line down just a little bit to give enough room for the cloud. Once I had my spacing right, then I used my little adjustable square and my straight edge to get my lines across the board. Then all I had to do was space out where I want my turkeys. Now, if you only have one template, but you want it on both sides, that's no problem. You can just flip them over. So I wanted again to make sure I had even spacing on the left and right and top and bottom. But I want to make sure that I leave enough room because I'm going to do a scallop on this board. Once all of that is set up and done, then I just have to space my letters out with even space in between the letters and even space on either side of the board. Something to keep in mind when you have more than one line of copy is if you have a shorter line and a long line, you want the shorter line to be in the middle of the longer line. So my top line is a little bit wider than my bottom line, so I made sure I had the equal amount of space on the left and right. You can see that half of the W and half of the E are sticking out farther than the bottom line. So that makes it to where it's nice and even and it looks good. When you're spraying with multiple templates but you only have one, just do half the board, and then before you get any overspray where you want your template to be, you just switch it over and finish it up. So we started out with the carving liner at 1/8 of an inch deep. Now this little turkey has some pretty fine detail, especially like in the hat and around the beak. So I did a little bit more than I really needed to with the carving liner, but I like the idea of making sure that I can blend in where I carve with my carving liner to where I meet it with the profile bit. So basically I just didn't want to have any spots that were too tight to get with the profile bit, and then I'd have to switch routers, or if you only have one, switch bits again, because that gets pretty irritating. Once I got the carving liner work done on both of the turkeys, then I put in my profile bit and I put it in at 3/16 of an inch deep. So with this, I went in and took out all of the stuff around the beak and the hat, because going at 1/4 of an inch deep and trying to do that is a little bit too fat, I think. Once that was all done, then I just went around and I carved out all of the profile of the rest of the turkey, and it went pretty fast. And I like doing the feathers right here. For some reason, doing that sort of pattern, it's just fun. Once the profile of the turkeys were done, then I switched to my outset letters. Now, one thing that a lot of people try to do is they try to get the first cut to be the best cut. But remember, when you're doing outset letters, you have a lot of room for error on the outside of your letters. So you don't want to try to get too close to that line on your first try, especially if you don't have a hand for it yet and you're kind of new. You want to be able to work your way in. It's better to leave a little bit of that black in there and then just come back and feather it in. Don't try to get it perfect on the first shot, because all it's going to take is one slip up and then you're going to have some issues. Again guys, I will leave a link in the description below for everything we're using today, so you can head on over to the website and check it out. For the inset letters, we use the 60-degree bit at 3/16 of an inch deep. Now when it comes to different fonts, Fatty font is definitely my favorite to do 1-inch letters. Clarendon, you're kind of outside of the lines and there's a lot of guesswork, but Fatty font is super easy to do and it's got a lot of rounded corners. There's not too many straight points. So it's pretty simple and I think it looks really good. It's actually my wife's favorite font for when she makes me make her stuff. The last bit we're using today is our 90-degree bit at 3/16 of an inch deep. Now when you're doing a cloud on outset letters, a lot of times it's a good idea to draw your cloud first. I've been doing it for a while, not as long as Dad, but I've gotten to where I don't need to do that. But when I first started, if there wasn't a line on the board, then I couldn't follow anything. So if you have that issue, just take a pencil and draw a nice looking little cloud around there. Once you get the cloud done, then you just take out all of the black. Once my lettering was done, then I went in and I took out all the excess wood in the turkeys. Now this can get confusing because on the lettering, I took out the black, on the turkey, I took out the wood. So just make sure you pay attention to what you're doing for each one. Okay, I lied. The actual last bit we're using is the 45-degree chamfer bit. Now when you're doing scallops, all you're really doing is just going in and out. That's it. And then as you pull the router in to carve, just try to get it on the edge of that last point that you carved. It takes some getting used to, and to start out, it's probably a good idea again to draw lines with your pencil. That will really help you out. But after a while, it just kind of becomes natural. Now, one thing you want to make sure to do when you're scalloping is you want to sand down those sharp edges because, man, those things will slice you open. So I went in and I sanded all the edges to give a nice round looking finish and then brushed it out and got it ready to spray. For the spray, we used our black primer. Now you can use any color you want, and the biggest thing you want to look for is flat or matte finish. If it's gloss or semi-gloss, you're going to have some serious bleeding issues. But if you use the primer and you don't overspray, you shouldn't have a problem. Once all the primer was dry, then I sanded off the back with a 60 grit disc, or actually it was 80 because this is cedar, this is real soft. And then I sanded off the front with the same disc. Then I went back with a random orbital and a 120 to give it a good glassy finish. There's not much that looks like cedar with clear on it. When you put a good coat of clear, especially several coats, man, that grain just pops and it looks beautiful.
So there it is, guys. So first of all, this cedar that Rod Hall brought us carved awesome, and it looks freaking great. I really like the way this thing came out, and I love carving cedar. As always, guys, I'll leave a link in the description below for everything we used today, including the templates, the layout, letters and numbers, bits, all that stuff. And if you guys have any questions, just shoot me an email, ryan@makeawoodsign.com, and I'm happy to help. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.